If you're ready to make changes in your life, then stay a while and let deep conversation unlock the place you're most ready to transform. Welcome to Breathtakingly Imperfect, a podcast dedicated to exploring the human experience and sharing of heart-earned wisdom to help you live with love, presence, and freedom. I offer insights from my own journey of healing, finding peace, and personal growth in hopes of inspiring you to find meaning, fulfillment, and a true love for life. I'm your host, Yesenia. Let's walk this breathtakingly and imperfectly beautiful journey I call life. I believe words, especially the way we receive them now in podcasts, are an art. It's what I chose to use and connect the subjects I feel can help us find and develop our ability to live with an unshakable sense of peace. Here, you'll find words that aim to connect deeply and are filled with freedom. I don't seek to be right or wrong, but rather give my passions and perspectives openly and genuinely to those who are ready to find themselves. The purpose of today's episode is to explore the disconnection that many of us have with love. After my 11-year-old asked me to describe love, I realized love is sometimes oversimplified. My intention is to put into words as best as I can the many ways love exists, how to better understand it in our lives, as well as how to use it to connect us with ourselves and others. All right, let's do this. The idea behind this entire episode came from a question I had difficulty explaining to my very impressionable twin daughter. The fact of the matter was that I had only just recently learned what love truly was. I worked hard to place love at the center of our home life and in my personal life. And yet, I couldn't find the words for any of it. And I really wanted to. So we put a pin on our conversation because I really did want to gather everything I knew love is and share it with her. When I got to thinking about how to explain love to my daughter, I realized how superficial our understanding of love is. And love truly deserves to be known for more than what exists between two people romantically involved. And at least for me, love was only made up of relationships. And as such, it was the only place I knew love could be found. So when it came to my experience, love was something that was obtained externally, which is probably why I was so boy crazy as a kid. Besides relationships, I believed the only other place love existed was between children and their parents. Now I realize if you had an adverse childhood, then the chances are that your interpretation of what you thought was love could not have been love at all. If you had to describe love right now, what would you say it is? Where is it found for you? If it's with your parents, what does it feel like? If it's with a significant other, how do they make you feel? If love is something that is celebrated in February on birthdays or anniversaries, what exactly are you celebrating? When love is mistaken with our adversities, it becomes what our definition of love is going to be. And because of that, we don't get a chance to recognize what healthy love actually feels like. So when I really started to take a deeper look at how love existed in my life, I realized what I'd known and what I knew now looked completely different. What I'd known was sacrifice. And That felt like giving with your whole heart without never, ever getting something back in return. I thought it was proof that you love someone deeply. I thought that when you gave up on your dreams at the request of someone else, it was loyalty. I thought that real love was selfless. And that meant loving someone more than you loved yourself. While that kind of devotion was familiar to me, it was never actually love. And in reality, it's pouring from an empty cup with no one to replenish yours, like ever. How are we supposed to go on in life that way? If there's something that I've learned about love, it's that it's a balance of giving and receiving. This could be the job you think you love that takes from you more than it gives. Sometimes it's the relationship you think you need to be happy, but takes away from you more than it gave. When I took notice of the interpretation of love in my life, it made sense why I looked for love externally. I realized that my childhood adversities made it difficult for me to know what love truly felt like. So I searched for that feeling in everything else. But now I had the chance to regroup. So when I was used to reaching out externally for love, I'd be able to reach outward instead. When you start to think about the things you associate to your definition of love, you get to do a few things. You get to explore what they've looked like for you and if they're truly rooted in love. By revisiting the way we've lived with our connection to love, we expand on the things that no longer serve us and drop them, as well as develop our ability to cultivate the way it does continue to exist in our lives. Okay, so we talked about what love is not. Let's explore what I found love actually is. What I'd like to accomplish from talking about love is to expand our awareness and the many ways it exists in our lives. Like right now, the more we acknowledge it, the more opportunity there is to feel it each day. As funny as it may sound, I think when many of us think of love, we have this mental image of a heart. At least I know I did. What's even funnier is how I think love is represented by a heart, but even I never actually connected the two in real life. So, like, for example, when I started to dive into my relationship with my mom, what she provided, and what I interpreted as love. Connecting the two meant really feeling and listening to what my heart was communicating that existed. It's like tapping into the connection and allowing yourself to feel what it is with that person. Love can also be found in your surroundings, your interactions with the world, and the actions you take each day. I only really recognized the way love lived in my life about 4 years ago, as my husband and I officially said, I do, after 15 beautiful years together. That whole experience was filled with a realization of the way we were surrounded with love. I wrote thank you notes to each of our siblings' parents and later individually to each guest. And I saw in each note a time when those people provided love in our lives. It was truly overwhelming, but in the best possible way. My biggest realization came from writing my vows. 15 years is a long time together. And instead of experiencing joy during that time, my shielded heart spent that time on guard of a heartache. That doesn't mean it wasn't there. I just couldn't experience it to the fullest. That was until that night. I was flooded with the emotions of everything we'd been through and the love that had been present through all of it. We were getting married, but we were also celebrating the love that had been there since the very beginning. I realized that our love lived in our first little home and in the space we created for our family. It was in the rooms our kids got to be kids in. It was in the yard we celebrated birthdays, friends, and slow summer nights. Love was in the decisions we made throughout our relationship and had gotten us to that very point. Love had been all around us, and I had failed to notice it. When your focus isn't on your heart, then it's on everything else. My wedding vows made me realize that even though I felt let down by life, life was always supporting me with love. My husband's love had brought so much healing into my life just by him loving me. And it made me appreciate what a gift it had truly been to have had love throughout that entire time. It's safe to say that shield I protected my heart with came crashing down the night I wrote my vows. I've been an avid heart connector since then and trust when I say I don't think many of us use our hearts as much as we should. We don't use it enough. So, to know what love is, I like to use my heart because that's where it's found. Love then is no longer just a concept, it's a connected feeling. Here's what I mean by using your heart. Personally, I use my heart like I use my senses, obviously in a metaphorical sense. So, like listening with your heart, feeling with your heart, seeing, also very metaphorically, with your heart, breathing in with your heart, and touching as much as you can in your life with a full heart. When you listen to your heart, love is in the connection between you and what it says. It's a love that is free of external influences and pressure. It feels like moving out of a state against your family's wishes because though there's uncertainty, it's where your heart is telling you to go. That love is a self love that is trusting in yourself no matter what. Author Caroline Myss writes about self love as a commitment to attend consciously to your own emotional needs in order to be able to love and accept others unconditionally. When you feel with your heart, love is the feeling of your experiences. I'm talking really feeling. Our heart is the keeper of our emotions. So, love is having compassion for yourself and the emotions that don't feel great. So, love is having compassion for yourself and the emotions that also at times don't feel great. Love feels it out by saying, you know what? I feel disappointed. It hurts because I'm human and I feel the love and feeling emotions, great and not so great, is what guides our healing and the joys, big or small, in our lives. It feels like being able to acknowledge the things that hurt as well as the things that make you feel happy and grateful. Through feeling the emotions in your heart, you may even realize that there are things that are taking up space in your heart you're ready to fill with something better. When you see with your heart, love is seeing with more than just your eyes. It's connecting your heart to see just for what is, free of judgment or with compassion. When you use your eyes to see from a place that filters those images through your heart, perspectives change all around you. Love is seeing without judgment, full of compassion and taking in what's beautiful within our sight. Love is breathing into the connection we have with our life. So I relate this to the very air you breathe in. How many times have you stopped to take in and appreciate not only the air, literally crucial to our existence, but also the scents that are part of our lives. Meditation taught me how humbling it is to have air. It keeps us alive. It's abundant when maybe nothing else feels like it is, and yet we take it for granted at times. Love is in the smells that connect your heart to a memory, a person, or a place. So when you breathe in love, whether it's as you sit outside your home, when you touch down in your home city, or even just the smell of your home as you walk in, you're breathing and taking in with gratitude even the smallest parts that make up your life. Love isn't also everything we touch, or I mean, it can be. I think most of us have heard the expression half assed when you're referring to something you do carelessly or without any or much effort. There could be many reasons for that, but putting your heart into it will less likely ever be one of them. Love is in the efforts we put forth with heart. It's in the way you want to prepare a meal for your family. It's in the way you build a home, complete a project, or even carry out your household chores. Love is in the means with which we do anything we do. We could choose to do it angry, spiteful, scared, nervous, or panicked. Or you could choose to do it with understanding, bravery, openness, calmness, and presence. The difference is always felt and translated in everything we touch. Love is what happens when we include our heart in the way we live. Thinking of love as something that actually involved using my heart made love no longer some unseen force, but made it into a recognizable gift in every little part of my life. It was as Eckhart Tolle describes in his book, The Power of Now, as a state of being, which meant I got to be in it as much as I recognized I was a part of it. And listen, I just got the gist of what love can be. Even though it was in my life, I only acknowledged it 4 years ago. It can be difficult to connect with your heart, especially when you spent years protecting yourself from feeling. This is just your notice that it will be there whenever you're ready. For a long time, I thought I was not fortunate enough to have love grace my life. It felt like love was something always found sometime in the future. And while I was grateful for a few things, I never saw the love that existed within them, let alone the love and the things that were in my life, no matter how small. I've come to realize love is the self reliance, the connection, the presence, and the intention in which we relate with life. Love is like air, it's light, bracing, it's invisible, but it's boundless. And most importantly, it's everywhere. It isn't contained in any one thing. And really embraces the very place where you want to notice it. Love exists for everyone within each of us, for all of us. And all we have to do is just connect to it. I grew up believing that my empowerment came from my financial independence and the career that I had been pursuing. So when I lost my job, that independence became codependence, and I struggled to accept it. Losing my job provided my life with a sudden pause that really made me begin the journey of separating being loved for who I was rather than what I provided. I mean, I did this unconsciously, but because I was not providing financially and no longer this management level career person, I sabotaged opportunities of receiving love. I believed that my worth, even within my own little family, was conditional to what I could provide. And to me, that was money and a career. It was almost like I was purposely putting up a shield, my cone of shame, and not letting anyone or anything good come to me because I believed I could only be worthy of being loved if I could provide. To me, my worth was conditional. Perfect example of how I did this without even realizing it. Okay, so during this time, I had gone quite a while without a new pair of shoes. I needed new shoes, but every time my husband would ask me if I wanted a pair, I would say no. Since I wouldn't let him buy me a pair, he just started to do him and went on to tell me he was just gonna pick some out and get some for me anyways, unless I chose. I remember sitting at this shoe store and my husband approaching me with shoe after shoe option while I just sat there glued to the bench, struggling, like really struggling within myself to accept that it was fine that he'd buy me new shoes and that I just wouldn't be the one that would be paying for them this time. I'm talking, I couldn't even make eye contact with him during that process. But when I did, not only did my shield come down, but I felt the love and the gesture that he was trying to reach me with. That day changed my life forever. The man just wanted to get me out of my dusty gym shoes and into some new ones. But for me, it was one of the most humbling moments of my life. I wasn't loved for what I could financially provide. I was loved regardless. And being able to accept something as simple as a pair of shoes could be nothing to someone else. But to me, it opened a connection where love extended in both directions. Whereas before, I was actively rebuking out of belief that love was conditional. That moment paved the way for self acceptance, self worth, and unconditional love for myself. Sometimes self love is learned internally, and sometimes unconditional love from others is what helps us finally believe we're worthy of receiving it. I realized my husband just loves me and wanted to buy me a pair of shoes. And in spite of my pushback, what he was doing was just out of love. And the truth was that I was, in fact, dependent of him in that moment. And that was also perfectly fine. I was loved for me, not the money I brought in or the job I left behind. He just loved me for me. To understand love is to understand that genuine connection also lives in the way you connect with yourself. When there is love for yourself, that means there is love for the person you are. And because love is free of attachment, that does not include the thing the person does. Self love is love for who you are and not what you do. It's the part of you that is, not that does. I'll be the first one to admit, realizing you could be loved for just being you and not for what you do is extremely difficult to grow from, especially for me. So, for the person that's out there always going the extra mile, I see you. No, you can slow down. Maybe say no once in a while. And rest assured, when you show up, you are loved. You could be the person that's always a host. Take a break. When you show up, no matter where you go, rest assured, you're loved for the things that make you, not the things you do. You're awesome. There's a saying I've come across repeatedly throughout this journey, and it says, you can only love others as much as we love ourselves. Except I'd take it up a notch and say, you can only love anything in life as much as you love yourself. If you're looking for things like purpose, meaning, or a sense of your true self, then know that love is at the root of all of them. The more connected we are to ourselves, the easier it becomes to recognize what feels meaningful in our lives. When you have meaning, there is love in that surrounding your presence for everything in your life. That's love. When you have a true sense of self, you have love for the person you are, exactly as you are. I've really begun to think that we experience the amount of love we have for ourselves and everything else. So if it's not there for you, then chances are you could be missing out on that very love and the way that it exists in your life. It's always there, just maybe inaccessible at this time. So when you give being loved for who you are and not what you do a shot, know that it starts with accepting yourself and knowing you are enough. That kind of love for yourself recognizes your self judgments and moves you compassionately through them with the strength that honors you on the inside so you can face with courage what's on the outside. When you begin loving yourself, a connection is formed. It begins to unravel the very things that people probably already love you for. You're not loved because you always say yes. You're loved because you are loyal, compassionate, and empathetic. To my super hosts, maybe some people love that your home is always available, but you are loved for your generosity, your warmth, and the connection you have with others. Those are the kind of things that separate being loved for you and not necessarily for what you do. But that separation can only be possible when you begin to find those qualities within yourself. I realize that when we accept ourselves, we are also accepting to be loved for who we are. And that's not validated through obligation. I learned that love is unshielded, it's nurtured, and it's relational to the love we have for ourselves. If there was something I wanted my daughter to know about love, was that love is carried within each of us because it's the place from which genuine connection becomes possible. That connects us to ourselves and with the world. To understand love is to realize that it is relational to the love that we have for ourselves, unshielded from the world and with nothing to prove. I wanted my daughter to know self love is something that was real and lived within each of us because it's what I wanted her to learn to lead her decisions. As I look back on my life, a lot of the decisions I made growing up were just out of fear, obligation, and survival. When you think, I have to visit my parents, is it out of obligation or out of love? When you contemplate between taking a leap of faith in another career or sticking with the one you currently have, what does a decision based in survival say? How about deciding to start a podcast? If fear is leading the path in that thought process, is it halted or explored? When we lose the connection to the part of ourselves that is rooted in love, things like fear, obligation, and survival take precedent in our life choices. When I was a junior in high school, I decided I wanted to go to art school. In my head, I saw myself living on a campus in downtown Chicago, living my best life. I knew I had to tell my mom what my plans would be so we could prepare. Well, I was met with complete opposition. Because of my mom's cultural beliefs, she didn't want me moving out, especially being unsupervised and on my own. Her reaction caught me by surprise because I didn't think she'd be upset about her daughter attending college, living life, and building a career. I honestly thought it was going to make her proud. I was just so confused because going away to school was not a bad thing. I tried to push the subject, but she was livid and I was terrified of her. I was fearful of losing a connection that felt like a lifeline. In my case, that fear was stronger than the trust I wanted to have in myself and what I was choosing. Suddenly, the decisions you make become the ones that lean towards protecting relationships, even when they feel wrong. In that instance, not only did I let someone else influence my decision, that day my decision not to fight back on something I knew was not wrong was driven by the fear of being outcasted by my mom. The obligation I had to live under her roof, according to her, and the survival of our relationship. She being the only little bit of family I had left. I felt powerless, threatened, and like my dream would be shaped how she saw fit, somewhere at a community college down the street. and not how I had envisioned. But hey, you live and you learn. Now, my sister's story could have been deja vu. When her time came to start looking for colleges, she only wanted one thing: to move back home to Chicago. And at that time, we lived in Texas. While she was met with the same opposition from my mom, she resisted harder. She knew deep down in her heart that that's what she wanted to do. And she did. While my mom didn't initially support her decision, she had the love and support of other family members that did understand. She had love with which to guide her decision. The most important being the love that came from trusting her heart. I'm still so proud of everything she's done since. It was actually reading a book by Gary Zukav that gave me the perspective of viewing love as a guiding light. It's how I incorporate love within myself, with others, and with life. Author Gary Zukav describes it as a system of light that is capable of receiving and emanating low or high frequencies of energy. So stay with me here. So just picture a glow in the dark star, the kind that you used to stick up on your wall. Low frequency things like greed, jealousy, violence, and things like that keep your star dim. And high frequencies like love, creativeness, care, and so on, they light you up or your star like a neon sign. I really like seeing love guided decisions with this perspective. I'd come across feelings that felt lower and higher than others my entire life. I just hadn't conceptualized it. I mean, look, when someone is in a funk, upset, or they're going through something, you can feel it in the room. You don't say, man, they're really lifting me up here. What there is feels more like exhaustion, no judgment. Same goes for those really wonderful people that walk in and fill rooms with their smile and their words. They energize you. Two different people emanating two different ways with which they connect with the world. And the difference in both is felt. Decisions guided with love are light. They feel aligned, even when they're difficult, even when you're unsure. They feel resilient. Even through trials and tribulations, you come out empowered. Decisions guided with fear, obligation, or survival are heavier. Within them, you're powerless. Making choices out of fear leaves us feeling like we've settled and abandoned ourselves just to keep comfort or the approval or the security in our lives. And listen, at the end of the day, what I got from Gary's interpretation was that I wanted more of the high and less of the low frequencies, or how I saw it as more empowerment and less powerlessness. When you take this knowledge of categorizing what lifts you and what doesn't, what fulfills you and what leaves a hole within you, you're better equipped to determine whether you choose love or fear based decisions. Check in with yourself, with your thoughts. You may think they aren't impactful because they occupy your mind and not your physical reality, but they're usually the very thing that influence your decision. Are your thoughts light and high or heavy and low? Because making decisions isn't the easiest thing to do when you're breaking away from your norm. You may even feel heavy in emotion, but high in hope when light is low in your thoughts. No, you can always work towards brightening the light until you begin to recognize where it's pointing towards. In his book, Seed of the Soul, Gary Zukav describes love as what brings light, is an active force, and the energy of our soul. This is why love based decisions have the ability to guide us in a way that is empowering, anchored in self trust, and abundant in growth. They are an experience and full of outcomes that align with our authenticity. The empowerment in love led decisions comes from knowing that fear is present but worked through, that there will be uncertainty in the outcome but embraced with self trust. And that even though some love led decisions feel terrifying, that it doesn't mean that they aren't intended with love for ourselves and the life we want to experience. Letting love lead my decisions is now central to the way I choose to experience life. I don't know about you, but I'm choosing passionately over passively any day. Seeing love as a light is what I hope my daughter uses to guide her life when it feels dim. Life is a series of choices. And when we are connected to the part of ourselves that is rooted in love, it's like having a flashlight of your own that never runs out. So use it to point you towards directions that are dark and in need of a little light. Next time you find yourself contemplating a decision, big or small, let love light your way. Today, we journeyed through love. We explored how our interpretation of love not only is different for each of us, but is molded by early connections to life, making it crucial to revisit whether those connections were ever truly love or confused with something else. We also discussed how love is found within ourselves when we form a literal relationship with our heart. This opens us up to receive and really feel the love that is being given so abundantly in our lives. We talked about being able to distinguish the difference between being loved for who you are rather than what you do, but recognizing what's at the center of your identity. And last but not least, how you can use love as a guide for the choices that define you. And most importantly of all, we realize that love is something that has always lived among each of us. Except now, you're walking away, being able to recognize it just a bit more. Describing love to my daughter was like trying to describe air. It was everywhere and everything, always. It wasn't something in someone else or in a future experience. I wanted her to feel that love is always present within her and in the way she experiences and approaches life. Love is an ever present state of being, and I wanted to find the words to describe that. My hope is that as she goes on in life, she remembers to turn towards that place within herself and let love light the way. I like to view life as our very own gardens, meant to be nurtured, cleared, and just allowed to bloom. So, as you go on to explore your life's personal oasis, as always, may you leave here only with what can help yours grow. I am so grateful to have shared the space with you. And if this episode planted something within you, you can water it with me on Instagram, where this community continues to bloom. The link for that is in the show notes. Until next time, keep honoring your growth, trusting your path, and embracing this breathtakingly and perfectly beautiful journey that is life.